Coffee breath?
I don't know. You're the one who gave it to me.
Wait. How did I get my name?
I didn't pour the coffee.
Oh, they heard that.
All right, so we are live, right? Good.
Okay, I gotta get back to where we were.
Description in here.
All right.
Good.
So we're in my art studio, Dr. Joe.
That where you are?
Yeah.
What kind of art do you work on?
Well, right now I'm using they're called solid markers. They're like oil sticks.
Uh-huh.
But I think they're better because you could use them on paper. And if you use oil sticks, which is oil based, oil paint and
Yep.
stick form, well, the oil will start, to ooze into the paper. But these solid markers, which I learned about from the graffiti artists, are bulletproof, and they don't, like, you could use them on paper, canvas, everything, and you don't have to deal with over time, if you worked on paper, them kind of seeping, if you know what I mean. The
Right.
oil starts
Yeah.
to spread out.
Yep.
So I'm using solid markers, mostly on paper, although I do some interesting stuff on existing old thrift store paintings as well.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
I go over those. So funniest thing, this month I'm going to be included in a group show here in Culver City at
Oh, wow.
Village Well Books and Coffee.
One of our favorite things in Culver City was to go to Agape and see Michael and Ricky.
Oh yeah, that's right here. Or yeah, it was right here.
That's where we met. That's where Michael was on the show many years ago.
Yeah. They're funny. They came out to Coachella one time, and I got this call at 10:30 at night from my administrator. She said, "Hey, Ricky Byers wants to speak to you." I'm like, "It's 10:30 at night." And I'm like, okay, so I call her. I said, "Ricky, what's up?" She said, "Hey, Rap Joe, Michael and I were out here at Coachella, and we don't have a hotel room. We thought one would be available." I'm like, "It's Coachella." And they're
Right.
like, "Can we come sleep on your couch?" I'm like, "I can do you one better. You could sleep in the guest room." So they came in like 2 o'clock in the morning. They came from Coachella and rolled up in
Oh,
the
that's amazing.
It was so funny. All right, are we good to go?
Yep, you mute.
Well, let's say a little prayer from Dr. Joe.
Absolutely.
Let's have Dr. Joe say a prayer, and then we'll get going.
Absolutely. So this is what I know. I know there's one divine intelligence that works in, around, and through each one of us. And by divine appointment, you all are here, and by divine assignment, I've been asked to be here. So I know that something wonderful is about to happen as this consciousness continues to build and grow and expand its way into the universe by means of us. For this, we're so very grateful. We accept this, we let it be so, and so it is. Amen.
All
Amen.
right. All right. So now we're going to say goodbye to you for a little bit, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Is Ed ready?
Yeah, don't forget to record the audio.
Oh.
All right.
Welcome to The Funniest Thing,
Yes.
where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell.
I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from Middle School Studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Oh, we couldn't be happier to be here with another great episode. Today's show is called We're in the Business of Producing Miracles with Dr. Joe Hooper. All life is vibration, and when we vibrate to success, happiness, and abundance, the things which symbolize these states of consciousness will attach themselves to us. Feel rich and successful, and suddenly you receive a large check or a beautiful gift. Faith is expectancy. According to your faith, be it done unto you. change your expectancies and you change your conditions. We need not coerce, we need not create the power, but we must let this great power operate through us. All that is required is a willingness to believe that God creates for us and through us and as us. All it takes is the faith the size of a mustard seed. Even just wanting to believe in the idea that God is renewing your mind and improving your circumstances will bring about corresponding improvements in your affairs. On this episode, Darrell and Ed discuss how the belief in God doing the work on our behalf brings about miraculous results. And during the second segment, down to earth, Dr. Joe Hooper, all the way from Palm Springs, or is it Palm Desert, helps us make easy work of producing miracles with today's reading from Joyce Kramer, God, I'm Trusting. Barbara Weatherman's out there watching on YouTube. Hello, Barbara Weatherman. Nice to see you again. I'm glad you're here with us. Anyone who's listening on the app, you can always go to YouTube to see what we're doing at Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Anyone who's watching on YouTube, you can take us with you anywhere you go by going to any of the podcast apps and looking up Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
Yes.
Every smartphone has one. What do you want to say? We have a great show today.
Well, we got 3 breaths.
We got 3 breaths. Let me see what we have here. Should I say the definition of miracle that I found this morning?
We do have an exciting, accurate definition of the word miracle.
So I was thinking about the word miracle this morning when I was doing my pregame warm-up, thinking about what we're going to talk about and how I've been living this stuff all week and what it means to me. And so, as usual, at Funniest Thing, I got the idea to look up the origin and etymology of miracle. What I'm told is from the internet is that miracle comes from the Latin words, 2 words, mirari, which means to wonder, and miris, which means wonderful, which made me think when we see divine order demonstrate in our lives, we wonder how that happened, or we say, funniest thing.
Funniest thing. You're not going to believe it.
Yeah, and then the other part is we feel wonderful, full of wonder, when these miracles happen. So I know Charles Fillmore said there are no miracles because what he was trying to say is it's just an expression of the natural order of things, the divine order of things. When these things demonstrate, and Joe had texted us, and I know he had something to say about that as well.
Well, it's the divine order of cause and effect.
Yes.
What we think and believing causes feeling. If you believe something's really bad, you feel really bad. If you believe something's really good, your emotions aren't. That's one thing. Someone said, well, what do you believe? You could tell by your emotions what you're believing.
Yes.
Because your emotions are an indication of that deeper subconscious level of what's going on in your thinking. But the reason one of the early metaphysicians, Charles Fillmore, said, well, there really are no miracles, didn't mean we don't, and he didn't mean even for himself, we still don't get thrilled at the wonderful outcome.
That's right.
Like the definition, the etymology of the word miracle, we're not like in awe, but we're not so surprised. That's what he meant. He meant, because that's how I feel. Things happen. I'm always in awe, like, holy cow. But my mind now knows, because I always take notice. This is what I was thinking. This is how I was feeling. But I'm always still like, holy cow. Look at how this worked out.
Yep.
This just happened yesterday. Several things happened yesterday, but just a quick one. I had 4 pieces of artwork framed professionally, which is anyone has artwork framed. It's a big investment, and it's also can be a very taxing thing on your thought process. Is this going to look good? Is this going to look right? Is this the right amount of border? Because once it's done, it's done. Once you give them the measurements and you choose the matte color and all that, it's done.
Yeah, right, sure.
You pay for it and you get it. You get exactly what you ordered. which is similar to how we create these miraculous things in our lives. However, just like when we're praying for miracles, I put in my order, but I started doubting the how part, which is not our business. And the how part in this was, but are they going to get it right? Is it going to look good? Well, then shifting from concern about them, was I clear about how the measurements, should I have maybe said a little bit more border or a little less border? And I had to just keep swatting those out of my mind. And then what really caused a little bit of fear is I got a call that went straight to voicemail. And because I hadn't put that framer's number in my contact list, it didn't recognize it. So it just got thrown away with all those salesmen.
Right.
So I rarely look at those when it's, well, I decided, this looks interesting. I played it, and the frame maker had called me and said, hey, we just noticed, such and such on your work. We weren't sure if you wanted us to clean that up or not. And I went, oh man. And it was after hours. So I was putting that whole fear burden, and I said, no, I got to let this go. The next day I called, and one of the employees picked up, and I explained, I said, oh yeah, I got a call, but I didn't get the message. And so-and-so asked about the edge. And he goes, yeah, I was thinking about that. I thought pretty much you wanted to leave that edge. So I remeasured everything appropriately to that. I went, holy cow, thank you. He said, yeah, no problem. He goes, we don't trim anyone's artwork without their permission. So I just made the executive decision. And I was like, okay. Well, the following day I was to pick him up. And now I'm thinking, oh shoot, did that guy get it right? Because he made an executive. I had to just keep shooing these. This is the thing. If you get these doubts, don't go down with the ship.
That's right.
Like, that's what I've learned. And I just have to shoo them away. And even on the way there, Stephen was helping me pick him up with his truck. So I said, let's just affirm my brain. Let's go of any ambiguity about these not coming out perfect. Me not being unpleasantly surprised. He goes, okay, we're just going to clear that out. And I have to choose to get on board. We get there, get in, they pull him out. Oh my God. Better than expected. Better than expected. They look like they just came out of hanging in the Hammer Museum, and they wrap them perfect for shipping and everything for me to just carry. And then they gave me hooks for the walls because they heard they were going up into an exhibit. Well, here's the other thing. I hadn't heard back from the lady who invited me to be in the art show.
Right.
And she said the art show is going up November 1st. So I'm like, holy cow, 10 days I haven't heard from her. So these things look so good, Ed. I told Stephen, let's just go straight to Village Well Books and Media and show her the work and see what she does. And he goes, we need to eat first. And I didn't argue with him. So we went to eat because he was correct. We eat. And I said, you know what? We don't need to go there. I'm just going to text her.
Mm-hmm.
So I just texted her, I'm going to be, are you at the store today? I have my work. I'd like to show it to you in person. And she goes, yeah, I'm here until 3. Good. We go there with the 4 pieces, and long story short, she's enamored. She calls over the curator. The curator picks the 3 they want to use because I knew it was only going to be 2 or 3 pieces. I had 4 there. And then she says, well, can you just leave them here? Because we're going to hang the show over the weekend. I was like, okay. So I didn't even have to store them in my house. It was incredible. And then I'm driving, I go, thank God we went over there, because if we didn't follow that hunch,
yeah,
she forgot. Did she forget about me or what? Like, she was
Right.
going to hang it over the weekend?
And you didn't have to hang out there, which is
No,
great
I was
news,
in and out
man.
in 13 minutes. The thing's going to be up, so I'll be letting folks know when that exhibit's up. But it was just, this is just an example. This may not sound super miraculous, but to me, I like to connect the dots. And I like to see how the hunch to go there, also the asking for other people to help shoo away these negative ideas. Because those negative ideas, when I allow them to grow, they cause hiccups in my experience. And I could trace those back too, to the thinking that caused that.
Right.
So that's why this whole show we're in the business of producing miracles, because you can't escape this law. The law is, as you think and feel, it is done unto you, which is as you believe, it is done unto you.
Yes. Yes. And the great news is, one piece of great news is Yogi the Grateful Clown is on the YouTube with us from Texas. So we love you, Yogi. Thanks for joining us. The other great news is that the principle behind all this is that God is good.
Yes.
So it's not even, as Darrell was saying, some people could take it as like there's a 50-50 split here. I could go bad or I could go good. But the truth is, and Darrell knows this, and I'm just clarifying it for people, is that the emotions are really indicating how aligned with the truth are we, the truth with a capital T. The truth is that God is good and that our good is always coming to us and through us.
Yes.
That everyone involved is an expression of good.
Yeah.
It has to be. That's principle. But the things that go through our minds often and that come up with these nightmares and these underlying messages that things could go wrong. Those are actually not grounded in truth.
Well,
with
that's
a capital
why they
T.
feel bad.
And then, and it's not just Darrell that writes them down. Even Emma Curtis Hopkins in Practical Christian, what is it called? It's called Scientific Christian Mental Practices, says if it's like, if you're seeing healings, but you're not getting, like people aren't walking away going, wow, like this stuff works, or you're not like feeling that in your life, like I could relate to. I've held a lot. I've practiced this stuff. I've seen many, many miracles in my teaching profession and other places, but I wasn't feeling like everyone around me reflecting it back to me. And she says that's probably because you're not writing it down. Because when we write it down, we're training our subconscious mind to see that this is a science. It's not just like something, wow, that actually worked. No, it works every time. It's meant to be, it actually works very easily the more we are on board with it. This whole thing of like the virtue of struggling and the virtue of making things hard and bragging about how hard they were is sort of compensating for not realizing that we're children of God, that we are expressions of the divine, and that it does come easy to us when we recognize our divinity. And when I let it come in easy, then I bless other people. I become a light into the world. In the description, Darrell wrote, belief in God working on our behalf. Belief in God working on our behalf. Where's that line?
Even just wanting to believe, that one?
It says,
that belief in God doing the work on our behalf brings about miraculous results.
Yeah, so
that I'm not
yes.
doing the work.
Yes.
This is the thing. It's the same thing when we shared the miraculous healing that had the vet is still corresponding with Lori about the head scratching recovery of Eleanor the cat, that
yes,
she was pretty much had some terrible things going on, and even showed it on the sonogram and all her blood work. And then we just started agreeing with this healing power within Eleanor, but not trying to coerce my brain, because I was doing that a little bit, and it can be stressful because you think, I got to think properly about this healing. No, I had to keep remembering, no, I just need to be joyfully enthusiastic that God is doing the healing.
Yes.
That God is on it. And that's the real helpful idea.
Yeah.
Just wanting to believe that by doing these simple things, my circumstances are going to transform for the better. That's allowed. It's that easy. It's that simple. Because, some people will argue,
I
Say,
agree.
is it really as simple? to
Well, my
start
own mind
feeling-
will argue. Our own minds will argue.
But to start feeling like I'm in, like,
Yes.
like I'm in, like I'm going to get like expecting unexpected windfalls because
Yes.
I just let out a lot of money.
Right.
People will say, "Oh, that's silly. You got,
Yeah.
I have to do footwork for that.
Yes.
You got to work hard for that." I say, I don't want to work hard anymore.
That's right.
Our guest brought up something. He's going to come on.
Yeah.
He says if it's not fun, he's done. He's out of there.
Yeah, the guitar player that I recorded Coconut Donut with said, if it's not fun, F it, I'm done. That was his motto. I loved it. So there's so much good here because when we realize that that by principle, God is good, and just when we practice knowing that, like speaking it gently, then the work, like you said, does not mean I have to make it happen. It's a gentle work of getting my own mind to get on board with what's already true.
Yeah.
So this allows me to go about my day when I know that God, this really unnameable, just divine presence, which is everywhere, is actually working on it. It can't change. It has to adjust everything on my behalf. It has to adjust things in our favor. We are an expression of this good. So then when I know that it's not my job to do all that, it's really a lot of it is my job, like you're saying, letting go of fear, doubt, and worry so that I can relax enough to be into the flow. Then that allows me to go about my day, blessing others,
Yeah.
enjoying my life, enjoying my work, having fun, taking inspired chances, because I know that the power of the universe is working on my behalf. So that awareness changes everything and makes me and anyone who gives this way of thinking a try. We become a light unto the world because I bring lightness to everything. So now that I've been practicing this stuff in this simple way that Raymond Charles Barker and the power of decision, because we do have to deny sometimes, make a decision. I do not, are my own guts going, oh, I got to work hard. Oh, this is a nightmare. I deny that as a reality, and then I make a decision that God is good, and then that cannot change. And I just gently say to myself, I'm not trying to change. I'm not even trying to change the thing going on inside me. I'm just gently reclaiming my authority to speak the truth about what is real about life. And so, like even today, I was driving to the show, and I was really high earlier in the morning off of these principles and thinking about this stuff, and then my energy started to dip. So I just started driving and just, wow, it's a beautiful day. I just had to soften my mind because when my mind is negative, that's not the time to try to overly affirm the good. I just start gently affirming, this is a great day. This car is amazing. My body's healthy. Just start thinking, blessing Darrell, blessing everyone else. And suddenly I went to the Prime Pizza where we get the pizza every week. They know us now. They know me as soon as they see me, and they know my routine. I walk out. I order my pizza. I use the restroom. I come back, and there's a woman standing there. And now I'm totally across in another city from where I teach. But who do I see? The mother of one of the students that I work closely with. And I was like, Tatiana, this is amazing. And she's like, yeah, I work right across the street. And this is someone that I let God help heal this relationship, because in the beginning it was kind of like, I think she had some experiences in the past where
Right.
she didn't trust the teachers and stuff. So I had to let God really work this out. This little thing out of the blue popped up just to let me know
Yes.
that there is this divine presence and that we're all connected and there's this unity to life. And I was able to share something good that had happened with her son that week. And she just said, Dad, it was so great to see you. And just that little thing, it wasn't
Yes.
even the size of the thing. It was just that it reminded me, it made me wonder, how does this happen? It made me feel wonderful. So that it qualifies as a miracle.
Yes. The key really is reminding myself that, like you said, to take the burden out of trying to make things happen out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when the little inspired, responsible things to do come up, then it's like footwork instead of forced work. Or each little thing is just a little adventure in faith. I'm going to go here and see what happens. And then even disruptions to my day are now not disruptions to my day. They're just part of what wonderful thing is going to come of this. Who am I going to meet here? What is, there's something
Yes.
wonderful occurring. Maureen Swift, who's a longtime listener, was on our Patreon call, and she was talking about something she's been wanting to do that just keeps popping up. And she admitted in the call, she goes, but I'll get started on it and then I'll discourage myself. And she remembered how Nancy Norman, another good friend of ours who's been on the show several times, a great teacher, would always say, the how is none of my business. Mm-hmm. The how is none of my business. And the very next day after we had that call, there was something in our morning routine books, in my morning routine books, and it said, you're inches away from your goal, not the miles you believe. All you can do is all you can do, but all you can do is enough.
Yes.
Let go of your efforts to make something happen and entrust the entire process to the hands of a loving God. And that's the key for me in doing anything new.
Yes.
Like these past 2 months, I've been teaching myself a whole new computer program so I could lay out my own book rather than hiring someone, not because I'm cheap, but because it was kind of a hassle to find someone that was able to do the things I would have liked done to lay it out.
Right.
So what seemed like a daunting task, I had to shift my brain into, no, this is going to be fun. This is going to be easy. And what happens? I find a YouTube video of a 20-something-year-old girl who made each portion of going through this process so easy, that what happens when we do this is where we get to discover our true self. Because as long as I'm staying small, making excuses, well, then I never really see how much more I'm capable of doing.
Yep.
And it's thrilling. It's thrilling. So then the whole process is thrilling. But I would catch my mind during the process every once in a while, not much at all. Like if this was 10 years ago or 5 years ago even. But every once in a while going, this is daunting, or, this part is going to be, no, this part's going to fall together easily.
Yes.
And sure enough, but I also learned to back off as soon as I started to feel frustration. And a lot of the time I didn't realize the frustration was happening because I was starting to get hungry. But as soon as I started to feel frustration in the process, even if I was just working on it for, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour, I said, that's enough. That's enough for today. And I'd go eat, and I'd go back to it the next day. And what happens? My subconscious mind somehow figured out all the little quirks without me having to work on it. So when I got back to it, first of all, because I quit before I went past the point of no return, of feeling bad and pushing through, I was looking forward to getting back to it. Number one. And number two, something went on in my brain, unconscious of my conscious, trying to figure out how to fix that issue or repair or whatever was going on. Something needed to be adjusted. That the next day, it was like a rapid, enthusiastic, holy cow, this can go here, this can go here. Wow, how did this happen?
Yes.
It happened because I'm learning to cooperate with these laws instead of fighting against them because of the crap I had misinterpreted growing up as how you succeed at something or how you set out to accomplish something. You should be working on this all day.
Yeah.
Or you should be doing this, or other people probably do this, that, and the other. Just making up these laws that do nothing for us, and they only thwart our ability to discover who we really are and what we're really capable of doing. But I will tell you, as soon as you take one tiny step, this is my real life experience and anything I've done new, and even this process of learning InDesign within a month as I'm creating the book, that as soon as you take that tiny step, your confidence rises to the occasion.
Yes, it does.
Every single time.
Yep. Yeah, and there's excitement in it. There's
Yes.
enthusiasm in it. There's
Yes.
fun in it.
Yes.
Just this morning, I recently we have this school-wide professional development day where the special ed program teaches the general ed program. Everyone from the school, the district has to go to one school and choose which classes they want to take. And I thought, someone sent out an email, said, if you'd like to present, let us know, or co-present. So I said, you know what, for once I'd much rather be in front of the room than sitting in those chairs again. And I stepped out boldly. I said, I'd like to co-present. And then yesterday I got the email and said, didn't say anything about co-presenting. It said, all right, presenters, send us the name of your and the description of your class. At first I was like, wait, I thought I was going to co-present, but then I had to just let all that go.
Yeah.
I heard the deeper voice that said, you can handle it, Ed, just do it. And then I realized all I need is a title and a description by Monday. And then I have another week to put together the presentation. And so this morning when I was feeling it, I wrote down in my journal 2 pages of notes of just whatever little ideas were coming up, which turned into 2 pages of ideas with many different ideas. I just wrote those down because when I was in a state, if I was to go into a state of doubt or worry, why do I write those ideas down? What's the use? But instead, I said, I'm going to write this down. And then like you, I got done with it. Now I'm going to let it breathe.
And your mind is going to shift this in the title and everything's going to be clear by the presentation day. But also, the fear can also, in a situation like that, make us think, oh no, I got to present. I better do some research.
Yeah.
And that's a killer because we forget that we have everything we need within ourselves. I just want to read this quick one.
Well, we got breaths. So why don't we do let's do that, and then we'll breathe, and let's go.
Okay, we're going to read just 2 quick things here. One of them is this is a great little book. It's one of Ernest Holmes' first books, I think from 1912 or very early on. I'm not going to try to find the date, but it's like around 1912, 1915, 1919. It's called Creative Mind and Success. And discussing what we're discussing, he says, and this is the key, the way to give a treatment, and a treatment is another word for prayer. It's an affirmative, believing prayer is a treatment. The way to give a treatment is first of all to absolutely believe that you can. Believe that your word goes forth into a real creative power, which at once takes it up and begins to operate upon it. Feel that to this power all things are possible. It knows nothing but its own power to do that which it wishes to do. It receives the impress of your thought and acts upon it. One of the first things then is to be definite, to have a mental likeness of the thing that you desire, to know exactly what you want. And I wrote for myself, mentally feeling is me. Mentally feeling is me. The universe will match. I'm a success wherever I go. If I believe that, if I just use that, and I challenge listeners, try that affirmation. I'm a success wherever I go. It naturally gives you a lift. But what's going to happen even more is the universe will match it, because mental likeness means the vibrational match of this mental feeling, believing state. And it's the job of the universe to match our vibration. And then quickly from 1951, this is an old daily word, and this goes great with the show, remembering who we are. I'm not limited in any way. All that the Father has is mine. Today can be a new beginning, a beginning completely free from all belief and limitation. And that's all what the word liberty means. Freedom from limitation. I begin again as I let go of every belief and separation from God, as I let go of old fears and open my mind to the unlimited abundance of God. I am one with God, the source of whatever I need. Because I have the mind of God, I am not limited in intelligence. I have access to divine ideas, to divine light, to divine inspiration. Because I inherit the substance of God, I am unlimited in my finances. Instead of thinking or talking lack, I affirm the presence of God's substance increasing to meet my every need. Instead of thinking or saying that I do not know what to do, that's a common one. I don't know what to do. I affirm that I am God's child, filled with new ideas, new courage, new strength. I not only affirm this, but I act on the ideas that come to me, holding fast to the thought that through God's Spirit in me, I can do all things. And the biblical quote is from Philippians 4:19. My God will supply every need of yours.
That is great. By the way, if you want to send us anything, funniest thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California. We got a great postcard from Lois Conklin who said, Hi, Darrell and Ed, a card for you, a thought. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you.
Yes.
A quote from Anne Lamont. Just celebrated my 90th birthday on October 8th. Going strong, volunteering, and playing music. Love, Lois Conklin. Well, thank you, Lois. We love you.
She's only 90?
Yeah.
She's doing great.
And then Sherry and I loved the last episode. She said that who was the last episode? Sammy Smith. Well, anyway, she appreciated the episode. She gave us glorious reviews. We love you, Sherry Knight. Jeff Comfort is the chief engineer out in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yes.
He gets us up on those audio apps with all the sound effects and such. And each week,
He takes us
right into the comfort zone. Yeah. All right. So, 3 breaths, and we're going to bring in our guest. This is something that came to me today when I was thinking about what the show was all about.
Yes.
It's about giving thanks in advance because your good is assured. God put that idea for the good. That little doubtful, worrisome voice, it's a lie. It's based on falsehoods, and yet it asserts itself as if it is an authority. And if we believe our own subconscious mind when it does this, we get duped. And when I get duped, and I miss a whole other day of miracles or wonderful occurrences or divine demonstrations. So
Fear throws dust in your eyes.
it does. It's time to cowboy up, ladies and gentlemen.
Fear is a liar.
Fear is a liar. So what we want to do is give thanks. We don't need to know how, like Darrell was saying, like Nancy said, but it is done unto us as we believe, meaning if we believe our good is here and celebrate in advance, we open the channel and the good has to come through.
And how?
It's the only reality. Or we can believe we got to defend ourselves and unplug from our vision and try to do all that, and it just sucks.
Ugh.
So let's do this. Let's do our morning routines, and here's a little affirmation for you. Let's take a deep breath. Thank you, God, for the good I receive. It is done unto me as I believe.
Thank you, God, for the good I receive. It is done unto me as I believe.
Thank you, God, for the good I receive. It is done unto me as I believe.
Good, you
All
took
right.
off after that.
Well, you know, another way of saying that is while I'm doing my job to believe in the good, it is being done for me.
Yes,
the
that's
good is
it.
coming
Yes.
on in. And speaking of coming on in, coming up next, Down to Earth, Dr. Joe Hooper helps us make easy work of producing miracles with today's reading. God, I'm trusting, and a whole lot more. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Are you going to use the vestibule?
I think I'm good to go. Go ahead, and we'll get started. Joe can pop in now.
You're good to go?
I'm gonna use it as energizing fuel.
Holy moly.
I don't want Joe to run away, man. No, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Good to see you, sir.
All right, we're ready.
All right, Darrell's tinkling.
That's good.
Shout out to all the people in YouTube land. Some great comments out there. God creates, and I'm here to celebrate. Creatively crafting versus laborious. The moment something I'm working on feels like labor, I take a break to protect myself from dreading it. That is wise, wise, wise. So we're We're going to have some fun as soon as Darrell returns. Have some fun now. Holy smokes.
And you were talking, Ed, you were talking about you have to do a seminar, right?
Yeah, like a
So,
1 hour
Have
presentation.
you ever heard of the teacher, Minister Kennedy Schultz? He was from Atlanta. He was a
No.
Kennedy always taught this: don't ever let a talk title stand in your way of doing a good talk.
Oh,
Because
nice.
when you're picking out a talk title, you're like, okay, I need
Yeah.
to say this, and I needed to say that. Oh, this isn't saying that. But he said, you know what? And if you pick a lousy title, who cares? Just write a good talk, and no one cares, because at the end of the day, no one cares about your talk title.
Yeah,
They care
true.
about what you have to say.
Good point.
I loved when he said that, because it took a lot of pressure off. A lot of times,
Awesome.
people always
That
want
is
to.
awesome. Actually, I'm going to tinkle too. We've been drinking a lot of coffee. I'll be right back. That is great. He just shared some wisdom.
Wait, so I decided to use the restroom after all. Let's see. All right. All right.
All right.
These progressives are hard to get used to. Do you have
We
them?
don't talk politics on this show, sir.
It's my glasses.
Oh,
you
your
goofball.
glasses, my.
And these are military issue, so they're guaranteed to make you look unattractive to the
I
opposite
love
sex.
it, man. I love it.
You like the way these look?
I do, man. I do.
They used to only give us Buddy Hollies. Now at least the VA gives me ones that look somewhat like Joe Hooper's.
Let's kick this thing up a notch. Let's
Buddy
bring us back in
Hollies.
here. Shall we?
Okay, you're gonna bring us back, or you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, all right, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. We have the wonderful Dr. Joe Hooper from Palm Desert or Palm Springs? Is it the same?
Palm Desert. I normally live in Fort Lauderdale, but I'm visiting Palm Desert. So yeah,
Oh, I see.
right down the street from you guys this week.
I know.
And you're speaking there. So tomorrow, are you going to be speaking there?
Yeah, at the Spiritual Center of the Desert tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Live
Great.
stream. Yeah, I was there for 20 years. I took that ministry for 20 years.
That's amazing, man.
It was a good run. And then after COVID, I thought, you know what, I'm ready to retire. So it was a perfect opportunity to just kind of step aside and let other people take up.
Yeah.
Worked
And
out
for those listening on the audio app, I just want to share or hear you share again that little bit of wisdom you gave me about the talk, because I think that's valuable, and the people on the audio app didn't hear that little break.
Okay, so yeah, Kennedy Schultz, who was a teacher in Atlanta, when we were in ministerial training, would always say, never let a talk title get in the way of you doing a good talk. Because a lot of times we look at a talk title, or we have to come up with a talk title, and we think that that's going to be the thing that's going to bring people in. But no. What really brings them in is when you give them a really good lesson. And so don't let that ever stand in your way. And so I've kind of lived by that. People
that's such
see
a
talk
relief.
title. You know, some churches will say, okay, we want you to talk on this. And I'm like, okay, I can embody some of that, but I'm not going to let that stand in the way of the universe speaking by means of me, because that just stands in the way of the universal message that is trying to come out. You can't.
Yeah.
It just has to be. You have to allow it.
And I got to tell you, that is so valuable for me, because, and this can be valuable for many, many people, right? Like,
Yeah.
So when I'm not thinking about, because this is the first time I will ever have given a talk of this nature. I've been doing this for 27 years, but when I'm not signed up, I just know that's what I'm here to do. Like, I know it's right in my wheelhouse. It's easy. But when the opportunity came up, then those old rational subconscious thoughts start nitpicking things, like you said, like the title. And you know what helped me yesterday? Because I've been practicing this stuff and going all in on my faith in God as principle, and God being good, so that those thoughts can't be real with a capital R, those doubts they
Right.
have, like, that's just my old subconscious mind. The thing that helped me yesterday was simply saying, I'm the perfect person to do this talk. Like, I that's just like, that was, I couldn't get beyond what it was I was going to do. But in that moment, then that made sense to me. Okay, I'm the perfect person to do this talk. Then this morning, I like more ideas came.
Yes.
And so I'm just going to let it flow. Like, as if I had done this a million times, I wouldn't even be worrying. I wouldn't be asking these life or death questions related to the title, or should I or shouldn't I. I would just do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm doing my best to approach this as if I've done it a million times and use all the tools I would when I do the show or anything else. So I love that wisdom, though, that you're sharing with us. So thank you for that.
Tomorrow at the church, I would do this thing called pick a page. I would take the Science of Mind textbook and I would say, okay, pick a page number to somebody in the congregant. They pick a page and I'm like, okay, page 314. There's 5 paragraphs. Pick number 1 to 5. There's 13 sentences. Pick a sentence. And it's like, and do a talk right there. I would just start.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's, you know what? Although it may sound to some people like, ooh, that puts a lot of pressure. There's also, it feels like it takes all the pressure off.
Well, no, it also, first of all, it keeps you on your spiritual toes. But
Yeah,
second,
that's it. Because it takes me out of the equation.
You're not scripted. I mean, not everything needs to be scripted. Part of my script has always been, I put a PowerPoint up and I just talk. And then people would say you talk and then you go down to the end of a thought and you spin around and turn back and then put another thought up there. And so that's what I do tomorrow. I call pick a page, where it's like, all right, let's see. And then it challenges me because it's not like something I've rehearsed or practiced or looked at before. And you take a sentence and you're like, okay, universe, what do you have to say about this? And you have to listen and speak at the same time.
Yes.
I like that game. It's a great game to play.
What happened to us?
Yeah, that's true.
Like a couple of years ago, out of the blue, a minister at Unity of the West Side said, oh, Darrell and Ed are going to give a talk on the 12 powers.
We used to speak there every third Sunday because they loved our podcast, and and they were trying to reinvigorate the church.
But this was on a Christmas Eve, and they didn't tell us like we were going to talk on the 12 powers. So you're going to talk on the 12 powers. Here, Darrell and Ed are going to talk on the 12 powers. Everyone, and we get up there, and we had to just rely on the simple words each power was. And man, people were coming up after us because it kept us on our toes. We had to listen to our gut, the spirit inside us. And I've changed the meaning for me of winging it. I've changed this meaning. Some people mean just wing it, I see it as when I wing it, it's like what you're referring to, where you really have to just, okay, I got to rely totally on the spirit within me. And that's when we get wings, and something magical happens in that moment. Afterward, we had someone come up to us and said, me and my daughter have been coming to Unity for 20-something years, and this is the first time we all thoroughly understood and could embody what these powers meant. Thank you. And I was like, holy cow, Ed, that was incredible.
Yep.
How that experience was incredible for us, because we were on, like you said, on our spiritual toes, allowing it to just flow through us.
Good.
And it was such a good feeling in the moment, so that when people were thanking us after, that was almost just like, I don't want to dismiss it, but it wasn't really like what we were looking for, the approval, because we felt the approval in the moment.
Yeah, you feel it. You feel the energy. So can I say something that you guys were talking about earlier?
Yes.
So you were talking about the faith of the mustard seed. If you have the faith of a mustard seed and how small that is. And we make references that generationally we understand. So when I'm talking to younger people, I'm like, if you had the faith that you have in Amazon, then you would be so on target. Because when you think about how we pray, you go into Amazon. You don't go into Amazon and go, la, 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 la. No, you go in with a purpose. You know what you want, right? You search it. You know what you want. You put it in the cart. It's like your prayer. Right? And then you go to checkout. And then just before you check out, it says, are you sure you want this? Because we're going to charge your card. And you hit yes, right? And you have this faith that somewhere in some warehouse, this thing that you ordered is on its way to you. And you
Yes.
don't even think about it after. When you walk away from the computer, all you think about is, okay, that's done. And you don't say, oh my gosh, I wonder if it was really in stock, and I wonder if they're going to have a problem getting it. I wonder if the mailman's going to be up.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, UPS delivers it. I'm like, you know what? Try to reframe your faith, in this way, because this way, when you see it, when you start comparing the two, you realize there's this exactness to it,
Yes.
how it works. But you wouldn't go to Amazon and just go, let's see, what do I randomly want to buy? You go in with a purpose. And
Right.
like when you talked about the definition of miracle, and you're like, it's to wonder, and to wonder is to allow the creative process to give you a divine idea, which then makes it wonderful when you demonstrate it.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that the word wonder wonder in and of itself allows for this door to open and go, gosh, I wonder what the divine storehouse of wisdom has up for me. What am I going to
Yes.
go out here and bring into my experience?
Yes. I love that. And that, last week I had this thing with my car. I drive this VW, and sometimes it thinks there's someone sitting in the passenger seat and there's not wearing a seatbelt, And then, so this day it happened that was, the ding, ding, ding. And so usually it just goes away quickly. But this day I didn't really realize it as much until this moment, that my subconscious mind was having one of those moments. Things are hard. Here we go again. But I caught it as soon as I saw that, because it was like, I'm going to have to do this. And I said, but there was another voice, the still small voice, which was like, there's a computer out there that this thing resets itself all the time. That's something that a lot of people don't know about these cars, because like the dealer doesn't often say it. It will reset itself automatically quickly. So, but I'm like in one of those places where that's old subconscious pattern is pretty loud, right? So, and I told that part, it's okay. If I have to go there and get it fixed, I'll do that too. And I went about my business. And then the airbag, this never happened before, the airbag thing went on. And I'm like, then that old voice, that negative that subconscious doubt is going, now we're really screwed. See, and the reason I know it's false now is because it's not even just talking about this little thing. It's making this grand story about lack and struggle and about me.
Yeah.
It's put me. But I said, okay, whatever we need to do, we'll do it. But I just kept going, if I just relax, this is going to reset itself. And then the thing that came up that was helpful for me was I realized if I do the same thing with my subconscious mind, that is, it's telling me there's a problem that doesn't really exist. It thinks it knows, and it's going off. And what was amazing was, as soon as my subconscious mind, the light on the dashboard of my subconscious mind stopped saying I'm a victim and stopped worrying and got back into the joyous flow of life, I got back in my car. First, the airbag thing stopped going off. The next morning I woke up, and sometime the seatbelt thing.
Right.
And I realized that's such a good metaphor for me, because my subconscious mind can indicate there's problems, but it doesn't mean there's actually a problem.
Right.
In the divine mind, there are no problems. There's only good, and it's all unfolding perfectly. And so anyway, I found that was very helpful for me.
So in the word believe is the word lie. You've heard that before?
Well, no, give it to us. I've seen it, but I've never heard this.
If you look at the word believe, sometimes you can believe, B-L-I-V, you can believe a lie, because it's right there.
Right.
It's right there. It's right in the middle. So it's up to you to have that spiritual discernment. See, when we say God is good all the time, that's true. But some people can use that good for things that aren't good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an actual demonstration of their belief.
Yes.
And it manifests in a way that they don't want.
Yes.
The universe is always listening to your thoughts.
Yes.
Sometimes, in prayer, it's very concentrated, but absent prayer, the universe is saying, Paul says, pray without ceasing. That's what that means. It means you're constantly praying. So if you actually have to take an inventory of the things that you're thinking all day long, 90% of them you wouldn't want to experience.
Right.
Like, wait a minute, I don't want to experience that. I don't want to experience this difficulty. So it really is incumbent upon you to have the spiritual grounding. I always use the example, like you have to picture the universe as a big wire, a giant electric wire across a room, right? It goes right across the room. And on one side, you have not evil, but you have things that aren't very pleasant. On the other side, you have things that are very positive. And the universe doesn't tell you where to grasp onto this place. Our consciousness grips on, and sometimes we're experiencing negative things because we're using the energy in a negative way. Sometimes we can experience positive things. It's incumbent upon us when we're down here to get off of it and go, whoa, done. Got to get off of what you were saying. Say, release that. I need to adjust and reframe and put myself into the positive energy of something. But I know people that are positively negative. Do you know those people?
Oh, yeah, of course.
They're toxic. And when you're around them, you feel that. But that's their use of the power.
Yeah.
You know, there's a power for good. If you want to use it, greater than us. But you have to know how to use it, or your subconscious and all the things that go wrong push you automatically to the negative side of things.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because we, on the break, we were talking about Raymond Charles Barker, and we were talking about Nancy Norman, and I want to get into those two because they're very related to me, for me. But what I was going to say, one of the things I learned from rereading The Power of Decision very methodically over in the last 6 months was there's a part where he talks about how he used to use the power of his decision to help other people that would come to see him. And then they would slip back because they hadn't made the decision themselves. And this is something I'm just learning to practice. As someone I've taught special education, I've counseled a lot of people in different ways. I'm learning exactly what he was talking about, which is if the person hasn't made the decision to be well and doesn't realize that I can't make it for them, because that's when I used to put on my biggest song and dance. Look at me, I convinced them. And then I would get resentful later, and I just feel terrible because it's like it was such a roller coaster. And now when people are talking, I'm just like, okay, that's you. That's what you're thinking. And if there's something inspiring that feels like it's worthy of being said, and it's easy, kind of so be it. If not, I just bless them and affirm in my mind that they're an expression of God and that all is well, and leave it at that, if that makes sense.
Now, Raymond Charles Barker, did you ever read the Principles of Successful Living, the Science of Successful Living?
No,
if you
I don't think so.
The Science of Successful Living was his first book. Power Decision came out second. The Science of Successful Living is probably, to me, one of the most masterfully designed books for anyone who's on a spiritual journey, because it actually takes you through the basics. When you get to the Power of Decision, you have to have some knowledge base of it. But the Science of Successful Living by Raymond Charles Barker, it will change your life. It's the book that people would always say, you know, because the Science of Mind textbook's 414 pages.
Right.
I'm like, you're not going to learn. Don't go through this. Go to this little book. And in those 8 chapters, I guarantee you will walk away a different person.
I'm putting it in Amazon.
You know what?
Oddly enough, I'm pumping into Amazon as we speak.
I like how you said about when we start believing in the opposite of what we want. It's funny. Someone's actually watching the show now, who I met a few weeks ago, and we were having a conversation about, you know, all similar to what we're talking about here. And she said, "Did you ever hear this one?" I said, "What?" She goes, "Worry." I've heard this. This is what she said. "I've heard this one, and it's amazing. It's really been a good one. Worry is worshiping the problem."
Yep.
Worry is worshiping the problem. Yeah. And what I like is that analogy you said about the wire going across. And I loved how you used, because I love these tangible analogies, because they really, in my mind, the visual really helps me utilize the idea. And as you were going down, they grab on, you can grab on down here because you're really believing these lies that you're telling yourself, but all you got to do is let go. And that's why the idea of surrender.
Wait a minute. Positive. You have to let go and then attach to the
yes.
Yeah.
Well,
some people just like, I release it and I let go. Yeah, but you're not telling the universe where it is you want to go.
Yes. But yes, that's what I like, though, because it's not a willful, I gotta force my brain to change. It's I could just let go. I can let go. And there's something that happens in the letting go, because then my mind, when I'm willing, and this happens any points in my life where I have to let go of one of these negative things I'm wrestling with, the letting go, the mind somehow instantaneously reminds me what I really want. And then I have to choose to grab in that area. But that's like we're surrendering and letting go. Because I'm only in it as long as I decide to remain in it. And sometimes in the past, people would try to help me let go, but I want to stay in it. You don't understand. Yeah, that's easy for you to say, or like you were saying about the car, when you said I'm on my own, it made me remember that song from the early 80s. Here I am again on my own.
Go down, and it really is the only road I've ever known. That's all about the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So
That's a prayer. That's a prayer. When people are singing that out loud, I'm like, please don't say that.
Yes.
Let's sing a different song, because that song, you're like, no, come on, that's an affirmation. But
Yeah.
you brought up an interesting point there, because you're nature abhors a vacuum. So during church, I would always line up all these chairs in a row, and I would say when you let go, you take one chair away. The rest of your life is set up in these chairs. The problem is the universe can't allow to have this space. It has to be filled with something. So if you're not specific with that new chair, that new something going into that space,
Right.
the universe will fill it with your subconscious and your experiences, which will probably bring about the same thing that was in that chair before.
Yes.
So you have to design it for yourself. Once you remove yourself, you have to have the what's next consciousness.
Yes.
Because if I don't have the what's next consciousness, that's why people marry the same person in different clothing, different size, with a different name.
Yes.
But they pulled it out, but then they didn't replace it with what they really wanted. And that makes it, and people are like, well, isn't that the will of God? Do you ever heard of Neil Donald Walsh?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Neil Donald Walsh had this book. I don't remember which one it was. And he said, and in it was the will of God. What is the will of God for me? And you know what he said? 6 blank pages. The will of God is whatever you want to create.
Yes.
Right.
You write what's in these pages. You get to design that, and the universe will say yes to it. If you want a lousy experience and you start writing it there, expect you shall have it, and you shall have it abundantly, pressed down and flowing over. What they don't say is, what is that? Is it just good? No, it's whatever you've attached yourself to. You shall have it abundantly, and it shall be pressed down and flowing over. It doesn't specify just good. It says, and the universe says, because it's done as you believe. If people are believing over here, they're over here. Are you following me? Am I making
Yeah, I'm following.
Yeah.
So that blank page needs to be filled out by you. And that was what Raymond Charles Barker is talking about in his book about the process of prayer treatment, which is affirmative prayer. Is 5 steps, or he does 7 steps. I don't do 7. I only do 5. I don't go to the denial step, because I'm of the mindset that anytime I speak a word, if it is something that I don't desire in my life, it's like having a pot of water on a stove. And I have the negative stuff is in that pot. And every time I speak about it, it actually turns the heat up a little bit. And so I got to remember, I don't want to remove that whole pot from the stove. I'm not trying to adjust what's in there. I don't want it. Take the pot off the stove. So in my prayers, I never pray anything out, ever. I pray the right stuff in. Out is a result of the in moving its way into your experience.
Yes, that goes along. That's good news, because that goes along with, how do you clear a glass filled with muddy water? You just keep pouring in clean water, and the rest takes care of it. And I also like how Emmett Fox helped me with that, because when I first started learning about this stuff, I had so many things I didn't want in my life anymore, so many problems with my way of thinking, that Emmett Fox made it clear. He goes, basically, let's just focus on building your faith in the right direction, of seeing the good, of looking for the presence of God and bringing love to situations. And you know what? All those negatives, they're all going to be dissolved and they're going to be removed of their own accord. And I was like, okay.
The name that actually has a name, you know that? It's called
What?
spiritual momentum.
Oh, wow. That
So
is great.
That is actually called spiritual momentum. Once you start to move that consciousness, that spiritual momentum begins to build. Okay. And it will continue to build as long as you give it the energy to build it. You can always slow it down because of your consciousness, but the spiritual momentum begins, and that it's a triggered moment where you say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm done. I want to change this. And that's usually where people start. I always laugh at people because they're like, I haven't hit the bottom of the barrel. I'm like, you know what? Who said you have to hit the bottom of the barrel? Turn the barrel over and walk out. You don't have to go to the end in something negative. Get out the barrel. Yeah. We're on the same page.
Well, I'll have to say, I never liked denials. I've been reading a lot of Emma Curtis Hopkins. But I don't mind. Nowadays, I use a gentle, I'll use a gentle denial, such as, I don't need anything right now. All my good is coming to me. If there is a part of me that is clinging very needily, like my subconscious mind, I don't say it to it. I don't try to deny it, but I just remind myself, there's nothing I need. My good is coming to me here and now. And then I do quickly move on to the denial. I just don't want people to get afraid too much of denial in that regard, because that can become a superstition as well. It's the energy with which things are being used.
And I think what you're actually speaking more of is detachment.
Yes.
I'm not attached to the outcome because I know whatever the outcome is for my highest and greater good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And also I use just no. Like when I catch my mind starting to, I just did my morning routine. I start getting ready to go in the shower, and all of a sudden I'll start thinking, but we got to deal with this. Nope, Darrell, nope. Like I'm just letting my mind know we don't need to go there. That's unnecessary.
Evict them.
Yeah, I don't need to be evicted. I just go, nope.
Spiritual eviction. If you allow that idea to rent in your head, it eventually becomes a resident.
Yeah.
You have to evict it
as
soon as you can identify it.
Right. And you do it, it's a statement of, I feel like it's not an art, it's like reclaiming, oh wait, I own this place. Only light can reside here. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like recognizing that those things cannot assert themselves unless we welcome them in.
Yeah, without my cooperation. So I don't want to cooperate with that thought is what I'm saying.
And meanwhile, I also do feel for the person who is saying, as metaphysicians, we say, turn away from the condition and look into the healing. And that's all fine and good. But if I'm experiencing cancer or some sort of illness and I'm working through that experience, that's easy for me to say, oh, just release it and let it go and give it. No, there has to be a process by which you can build that kind of spiritual awareness and understanding so that you can release the process. In fact, you can actually bless the process.
Yes.
People that would go to chemotherapy and they used to call it the place they go, they're like, I have to go to the pit and I've got to get this stuff put in my body and I just hate it. And I'm like, you know what? You need to stop talking like that. First off, that's where your healing is right now.
Yeah.
It's taking you to that cancer center for treatment. And now while I know you don't like the side effects of it, that's part of the healing process. So I hate to say bless it when you're getting sick, but it's doing its good work by eradicating what's in there. Right. So you have to reframe that because the mind will take over and it won't work. It will not work, no matter how effective the treatment is. If the mind says to the body, don't make this work, it won't work.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
It is very powerful. I mean, I went through something far less serious than that, but it was on the physical level recently. And I was like coming to a new place with my understanding of how to identify with a God where there is no sickness in God. There is and part of it was being gentle with my subconscious mind and saying, yeah, sure, my subconscious mind had something to do with this, but that's okay. It's like it's just letting go of any and all judgment and cursing, right? And getting it just the sooner and as I did that, man, the healings that have been happening with me and have been, truly wonderful, miraculous kind of stuff lately. Not that stuff that anyone even knows, but I'm starting to see when the thoughts are growing. And there were certain things that would happen when I noticed I used to believe I was separate from everyone, and I would silently be subtly cursing people. Now I just gently speak. I am connected to Darrell as an expression of God. I am connected to Joe. And it was just some old little me that was scared of people and thought people were scary. And now I just gently will, as soon as I start to feel that come on, it's amazing. In the moment, it doesn't even seem like anything's, quote, happening. But I've noticed that the things that used to happen after I felt that way physically are not happening anymore. Conditions that were coming up, they're not happening anymore. And that's why I love this gentle power of the word and recognizing. You texted us about this being demonstrations of divine order rather than miracles in the way some people think of it. And I totally get my understanding of what you're saying, which is this is a science. This stuff works. This is not like some sort of magic trick. It works, and it's always working, and it's wonderful feeling, and it's like, wow, how did that happen? But it's not. I know it's going to happen now. We know we do it with faith.
Expectancy.
And then how it happens is the thing that blows our minds.
Yeah. And the how thing, some people say, don't worry about the how. And Nancy's absolutely right. We always say that. Don't worry about the how. But it is incumbent upon us to keep our senses aware of how the universe is unfolding.
Oh, yeah.
Opportunities and connections and this thing. And that brings me to how this all happened with Nancy. Because we were at church. You want me to tell the story about?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So we were at church. We've been trying to find a faith community where we live in Fort Lauderdale, and we've had challenges. And Paul, I think he was a guest a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Paul used to come to my church in Palm Desert, and I found out that he was taking over the Unity Church in Pompano. And so I was thrilled because I thought, oh my gosh, we have an opportunity to find another faith community. So we'd gone for a couple of weeks, and the week we were there when Nancy walked in, and we didn't know who Nancy was. She walked in kind of just as service was starting, but she had this vibration. She had this energy.
Yep.
She had this regalness about her. I mean, it
Yeah.
was
Yes.
she kind of walked in, and she both took, it was our attention. Our attention was drawn to her and her beautiful hair and all that. And she sat down, and at the end of the service, a woman who'd heard me do a couple talks there said, her name's Ruth. She said, I need you to meet Nancy. She wants to meet you too. And Nancy had heard some of my talks or something, and Ruth had told her about some of my talks in Pompano. And she was like, oh, Joe, it's so good to meet you. And I said, I think this is our faith community. And Nancy said, I think it is for me too. In fact, I know this is where my faith community is. And so we were both so excited. We were going to have lunch that week. We were going to have lunch with Paul and another minister from Naples. And I was so excited. And she sent me a wonderful text message. She left me a voicemail. She talked about meeting you guys. She said, oh, I'm gonna meet you. The first day, she said, I want you to meet these guys. They'll have you on their podcast. And would you ever think about doing a guest spot at Port St. Lucie? And I'm like, you know what? I'm retired. Sure. I mean, I'm open to anything. So she did that on Sunday.
Yep.
And when Paul called me on Tuesday, I was floored. I'm like, wait, what? She had a brain aneurysm? She just died? I'm like, we just met her. I mean, it's like all this stuff. But I think also too, so that wasn't a coincidence. That was something that was a divine action unfolding. It was her way of saying, I can't take this guest spot with the guys. Guess what? Can you take it for me?
Yeah.
Right.
I speak up at Port St. Lucie. If they want you, you're there available to them.
I know.
It's almost as if there was something that knew, even though he didn't know, that this was going to happen, because these things were already starting to fall into place.
Yeah.
And so it was really it was just really beautiful. And I wish I would have gotten to know her a lot better, because she just the way she was talking, and you just felt all of it. She was that was a spiritual synchronicity there that it just
Yeah.
You tapped into it. So
That's
that's
the same thing happened on our end because she introduced you through your info to Darrell on a
Yeah.
Sunday. I think we
No,
spoke
she talked to me
on
on
Sunday.
on Monday.
No, because I was driving.
Oh,
It was
because she told me either Sunday or Monday.
maybe it was a
She
Monday.
said,
Yeah.
I finally found, she goes, I've been looking for a place to go near my home that I could go to, not just be the minister of, that I could attend. And I stumbled on this place and oh my God, I talked to these great guys. Do you know Dr. Joe Hooper? I said,
Yeah.
no. And she told me about you and she told me about Paul. And she said, I already told them they're perfect for your show. You guys are all going to love one another. I can't wait for you all to meet. And I said, fantastic. And we were on fire. And next thing I know, she's gone.
And not only that, she was scheduled to be our guest that Sunday, and then Paul ended up taking her place. Just such an amazing thing.
the whole thing. When you look at it, you go, okay, something out there is, it's all unfolding as it.
I gotta tell you, the only thing I've felt since she passed on from the body is I could feel like her this like golden, pure, just white golden light of prosperity. Like that's all I feel, because I only have known Nancy as a truth teacher and a friend in the last year or so, or is it 2 years maybe? And
It's since
I've never felt anything
2022.
like it, but it's just pure prosperity and pure knowing of this truth. Like that, when I want to, it helps me tap into that knowing. And I know that she knows it and is even more tickled by it now than ever before. And that encourages me to apply it here and now with even more like fidelity or truth, and just like know it, like really step out boldly, like the tagline of our show, stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes. And because this way of living, it turns everything on its head. One of the first things I learned this morning, I was going to say, I had this realization, because I wake up and my subconscious mind will start going, and I'll just say, only God is good. I mean, only God is real and God is good. I'm an expression of God. I am good. Because for me, getting the truth that I am an expression of that is seems like the deepest thing that is still coming up. And I felt that this morning, and I go, wow. Life makes no sense unless I recognize that I am good and I'm an expression of God. All the rest of it is me running around out of the pain of believing that I'm not that.
Yep.
And what a wonderful gift. She passed that on to all of us, and now connecting with you is just the continuation of that gift.
Yeah. Well, she was the happiest person I knew. She was more enthusiastic about learning more and seeing more, and I was like, oh my God, she's the reason I had to learn InDesign, because I wouldn't be doing the book I put together that it's going to be done in a couple of weeks and up on Amazon is Step Out Boldly, The Hidden Meaning of the Statue of Liberty. And I go through all the symbolism in the Statue of Liberty. And she's the one who encouraged me to do that. I wouldn't be doing that if it was for her. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I need this piece of artwork for this little piece. And it just turns out that this one piece of my artwork that has nothing to do with the Statue of Liberty was Nancy's favorite. And I go, oh my God, that's the perfect logo. Actually, Steve, our friend, pointed out, he goes, why don't you just use that? I go, okay, well, then that's what it's got to be. But I mean, I never did workshops on Zoom. I only did those this past year. No, not even this past year, because she said, you could do a Zoom workshop on. And I never argued. She reminded me of my first mentor, Mike Dugan. I never argued when these type of people said I could do something that was totally, I felt I had no experience at the time, didn't know how to even begin. It was like when Mike Dugan in the past, previously, and now Nancy Norman, I just go, okay. For some reason, her confidence was like Mike's, so much that I could feel that they believed I could do it, that I just did it. And all these things have been a success since then.
So let me follow up with that. So when I do a counseling session and a person leaves my office, and I would say, before you touch that doorknob, to leave the office. You get to decide whether this worked or not. And if you can't decide right now, then I want you to borrow my belief that it can.
Yeah.
Mm.
So when you put your hand on that doorknob, you walk out either with your belief intact, or you can borrow mine knowing that it's there. And you can borrow my belief, because that's kind of what we do. When we
Yes.
do these things, you borrow my belief and you go, okay, and until you can embody it.
Yes.
You embody it, but that it's that period of time between making the decision, not being quite so sure, and then getting to that belief.
Yes.
If you can't get there, then borrow it from me, because I already know you. I already see you over here.
Right.
Yes.
All this other stuff is just stuff that has to happen. But borrow my belief and you can walk into it. You are walking into it.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good one, because that's something I can, like, I could, as a teacher and such, I could be willing to let you borrow mine for a certain amount of time. You know, like, that helps me just, I don't know, there's something about that concept that I really like, because, yeah, sure, take this. Because if it's someone who I know is moving in this and really is going to practice this stuff, and I know, just like myself, is going to get it, wants it, then I don't mind letting them borrow, just like someone who you trust to give it back. Like, but then there's some people that you're like, I don't think I'm going to let you borrow mine for now. You like, when you're ready to like kind of be in this place, then we can talk about you borrowing,
Well, the prayer of consistency is always making someone that when I pray for someone, I never pray for someone unless they ask for prayer. To me, it's spiritual malpractice.
Yeah.
If someone says, will you pray for so-and-so? I will pray for their highest and best good and their receptivity to it. That's all I can pray for.
That's the best prayer.
The highest and best good and their receptivity to it. Because I'm not defining any part of that.
Right.
I'm letting them define that, and hopefully their receptivity to whatever that is for themselves. Yeah. It's not for me to dictate. It's for the conclusion. So people get upset with me because they're like, well, I need you to pray for Susie. And she gives me all the reasons to pray for Susie. And I'm like, first off, Susie didn't ask me for prayer. And I will pray for this though. Her highest and best good and her receptivity to all of this.
Yes.
And will have to suffice, because it's actually global. It takes care of it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You know, you guys are talking about the Statue of Liberty. I just wanted to share one little thing that popped up when I was preparing for the show, because I was thinking about how for some reason this popped in my head. Everything is evolving always. It's always growing, expanding. Like the thought of even Amazon existing, tell someone like even 20 years ago, I can have it tomorrow, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, but everything's always evolving, and everybody is an expression of God, and God is ever expanding good. So life will continue to evolve to demonstrate, and I realized this is what struck me and reminded me of the Statue of Liberty, this idea of a more perfect union. I am constantly developing through this practice of thinking this way, a more perfect union between me and the divine, which is something as a country that we were founded on, that we can all...
That's in the Constitution,
yeah,
by the
that
way.
we can all bring at this time, that this world... we can all agree that we are all, at least in this community, working on a more perfect union. And I can only say that because I'm talking about me. I mean, I can only say that with authority and in a way that I feel like nowadays people have been responding and more receptive to what I say, because I'm only talking about what I just did this morning and what we're doing and what I'm doing with you all right now, which is developing a more perfect union, because these are principles. This is like, I was thinking about it, like how people think, I was specifically thinking like people, it's not, I don't think it's as prevalent, but people that are Christian didn't want to accept evolution, and evolution, maybe those people didn't want to accept Christianity, but it's a principle that shows up in both places, which constant, ever expanding good. It's a principle that it evolves and grows, and the more I unify my thinking with that, the more I grow and expand, and the more my life reflects this, and the more joy I feel.
So to that note, and what I always would teach on taking that a step further is when I struggle with that idea, I have to realize, like, let's just call it all the world religions. There's a common thread that goes through all of them. There's one common thread, that's love. There's love.
Yeah.
Now, I may not agree with some of these things over here, or some of these things over here, or the way that you do this, the way you do that. But the one common thing that we can unify around is love.
Yes.
How we get there. So, I mean, in my thought process kind of goes with yours. So that brings you right back to this quote. I am trusting in the power of divine spirit to work a miracle in my life, and for this I give thanks. And if we go back and let's just say this, I'm trusting in the power of divine spirit to allow me to wonder and experience wonderful things in my life. And for this I give thanks. That opens the idea that all of this, all of our good comes from ideas. Thoughts become things.
Yeah.
Yes.
All thoughts manifest. So we have to be very careful what we want. So we'll call them miracles. We'll call them everyday expectancies, whatever it is. I like that you took that apart and said it's wonder and wonderful, because that way it brings those two things together. I love that.
That's great, man. Well,
what are we wrapping up with, Ed?
Dr. Joe, let's talk first. Where can everybody find you? I want to say that I do have links to
his talks.
Your what's it called? I'm sorry, you said it before, the name Palm Desert. Can you tell us how we can find you online?
Spiritual Center of the Desert is tomorrow.
Spiritual Center of the Desert, and that link is in the description.
And then if you go to the archives on their website and go way back, because I retired in 2020, you can go way back and you can see a bunch of my talks, or you can just YouTube, different name, Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert, Joe Hooper, and you do that, a bunch of talks just pop up.
That's brilliant.
And I do I do a prayer workshop. You were talking about the prayer in Power Decision. I do there's a 2-hour seminar on how to pray.
Oh, wow.
In fact, if you go back to one of my talks I just did in Naples and Pompano just recently, in the past 90 days, go to their archives. I did learn how to pray because people don't know how to pray.
That's
We
right.
always say, they do rote prayer, our Father who art in heaven, or they're God's will, whatever that is. And if you learn those steps to pray, that's how you move thought for a specific purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving thought for a specific purpose.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the first thing I did when Darrell talked about you was watched, I think it was a Pompano talk, and was there something, a friend with a motorcycle who had died in a motorcycle accident?
Oh, my uncle. Yeah.
Yeah, your uncle. And
yeah. No, I mean, but you know what? I look at his transition and I look at his transition and I thought, you know what? Because I know in my human brain, sometimes I'm like, I forget something and I immediately go to my dad who had Alzheimer's or my grandmother. And I'm thinking, oh my God, am I conditioning myself to experience this?
Right.
Forget something. And then I have to look at how Nancy designed her exit, how my uncle designed his exit. They didn't know they were designing it, but they did ultimately.
Yes.
There wasn't cancer, there wasn't dementia, there wasn't all those things that people are experiencing. There's not a requirement to do that,
Yeah.
So I am kind of borrowing Nancy's thing that one day I just hope it just happens. It just
that's it.
And my uncle got hit with a flying deer. He was riding his motorcycle.
That's right.
Across, hit a deer and it flew over and it knocked him out. And, okay, he died going to get a fish sandwich with his friend on a motorcycle and with his best friend doing what he loved the most on that bike. And what a way to go. I mean, God bless him on his way. So, yeah.
It was that joy that immediately I texted Darrell, we gotta get Joe on the show.
Yes.
I can feel the joy and I can feel your connection and with spirit, and that you practice this stuff. That's the main thing, right? Like practice. We're all practicing this stuff. And that's why the funniest things, we know we've met someone else who kind of practices and studies the way we do. If I share a little funniest thing, a little miracle, and they light up, and maybe they have another one of their own. But if they write it off, it's like, okay. But it's that moment of recognizing the wonder of life.
Well, it takes one to know one.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what yours, because I have crazy family horror stories that I start, like you were talking about, thinking what's my demise going to be? And I go, stop it. And I heard one person say this. I believe it was Esther Hicks. I could be wrong. I don't care where it came from. But she said her affirmation is healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, gone. That's it. That's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was Nancy's.
Now you just remember something. You just said something about practice. And you know what? When you practice a musical instrument, you hit the wrong notes sometimes.
Yeah.
Give yourself and keep going. Because
Yeah.
some people have this category of practice. Well, you just need to practice it. And then they feel like a failure because it's not working the way they want it to manifest. And I tell people, look, you've heard it, practice makes perfect, but practice also allows for the times when our humanity shows up. And we have to give ourselves grace. Humanity shows up and just feel what that feels like, but don't live there. Dr. Tom used to say, yea, though you pass through the valley of the shadow of death, don't build a condo there. Keep moving.
Yes.
That's right.
So in that concept, it's like,
That's
okay, when you practice, you'll have times when you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the thing is, you continue to believe in the practice of this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and we add to our prayers whatever it is, and God says now. There's no time in God. Whatever it is, I'm not being hard on myself to try to make it happen now, but in God's mind, it is now. And because once a little opening in our consciousness and the light flows through, it changes everything.
God delivers like Amazon.
God delivers like Amazon. Well, we found this story.
Oh, yeah. This is back from the day. It's from...
I think it was when he was in Palm Desert there.
just starting, I think. We got this from TMZ, Palm Desert, about you.
Reverend Dr. Joe Hooper is known for the powerful healing energy that flows through his truth talks. A cynical man in the area heard about Joe's healing talks and came to hear his service. Afterward, Joe saw him talking to one of the prayer ministers, and he did not look happy. Joe snuck within earshot and heard him say,
You call that a healer? That guy was the worst. Even a guy in a wheelchair got up and walked out.
And there you go.
I guess you were doing your job, but he didn't think so.
You know how that goes. Remind me someday on another show. Just mention the word Easter, and I'll bring up a really good story for you.
Oh,
okay,
right.
Easter. All right. Well, I got to say, Joe, you've been a loving spoonful.
Yes, and you got us believing in magic.
Do you believe in magic?
In a young
girl's heart, how the music can free her whenever it starts, and it's magic. If the music is groovy, it makes you feel happy like an old-time movie. I'll tell you about the magic and I'll free your soul. But it's like trying to tell a stranger about rock and roll.
Visit DarrellandEd.com to find easy
Joe Hooper,
links.
we love you.
Thank you for being a part of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed.
If you believe in magic, don't bother to choose if it's jug band music or rhythm and blues. Just go and listen, it'll start with a smile. It won't wipe off your face no matter how hard you try. Your feet start tapping and you can't seem to find how you got there. So just blow your mind.
Oh.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you. Thank you.